Dr. Haley Stevens.
And I'm Dr. Sarah Groff-Stevens. We are mental health providers at the Teen and Young Adult Health Center at UVA, and we're here to answer your awesome questions about mental health.
We got a lot of questions from you, so we lumped them together into some themes.
The first group of questions we're asking, how do we know when we have a mental health problem rather than stress or the blues?
So that's a good question. When we think about any emotion or feeling, we think of it on a spectrum ranging from just a little bit of it to a whole lot of it. So if you take anxiety, for example, we're all supposed to have some anxiety because it's functional or helpful. So like if I see a wolf coming at me in the woods, I want my heart to beat fast, I want my muscles to tense and my pupils to dilate so I can be prepared to run or fight the wolf. Or if I have a test coming up at school, it's good to be a little bit nervous or worried about it because that's going to motivate me to study for the test. But sometimes emotions or feelings go from being situational to ongoing. So that means they start to creep into situations when we don't normally need them. Like if my heart starts racing and I get lightheaded out of nowhere in math class, or if I find that I'm spending hours every day worrying about my normal assignments, that's when we start to think this might be a problem. So when emotions go from being strong, or when emotions go to being really strong, persistent or ongoing, distressing, which means you really don't like them, and impairing, which means they're keeping you from performing your best or doing the things that you really like, that's when they start to become more than stress or the blues.
Well, it's complicated. I'm going to introduce a term called biopsychosocial. So bio stands for biology. This is what you're born with. This is your genetics and your temperament. The next one is psycho, and this is your psychology. This is how you respond, how you cope or don't cope with different stressors or things that happen in your life. The last one is social, and this is the environment, your friends, your family, and media, all the different ways that we take that in. And these circles, if you think about them, overlap and influence each other in different ways. And for each person, the circles are different sizes. Someone may have a huge biological circle and smaller other circles. But the opposite may be true for others. Maybe they've had many stressors in their lives that they had to cope with. And the psychology circles are huge. So, for everyone, there's a different mix of biological, which is what you're born with, psychological, which is how you cope, and social, which is what you encounter every day that contributes to mental health concerns.
So the best thing you can do is talk to a trusted adult. That might be a parent or a caregiver, but it could also be a school counselor or a mentor. If you don't have a trusted adult in your life, you can always talk to your primary care provider. That's the doctor that you go see for checkups or when you're sick. They or an adult parent, caregiver, can help you find a good mental health provider in your area. Some teens are worried that if they see a mental health professional, that person's going to tell their parents everything that they talked about. And I want to tell you that that's not necessarily true. Mental health providers will vary on the extent to which they involve your parents in therapy sessions, and some involvement is appropriate. However, most are going to keep a degree of privacy between you, the patient, and them. The mental health provider is always going to be obligated to involve parents and proper authorities if they learn that the patient, you, is being harmed or if you're at a high risk for suicide. If you have questions about the limits to confidentiality between you and your provider, you can always ask them. A good provider is going to be clear with you.
So for acute anxiety, breathe. What happens when you feel a ton of anxiety? You have shortness of breath, your heartbeat beats really fast. So what we need to do is to slow down, take a moment, and breathe. One technique I like is called square breathing, or 4-part breath. You can Google it. What you do is you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold it for 4. And what we're doing with that is managing the physiological response to stress. These are all those things your body's doing with the rapid heartbeat and shortness of breath. There are also lots of awesome mindfulness and meditation apps as well that can guide you, such as Headspace or Calm. For sadness, first thing to think about is connection. So spending time with friends or family. There's also something called values-based activation. And what that means is doing things that you like or previously liked that gave you joy and were personally important to you. So find one of those activities, and better yet, invite someone to do it with you. And also, get support. Reach out to your parents or a trusted adult. Talk about it. Finally, if you're in an acute crisis or thoughts of hurting yourself or suicide, please reach out to a trusted adult, to a suicide hotline. There's even a text crisis hotline that you can